What scientists do know is that even small temperature changes could have very big effects on the planet.
If we look at the ballpark figures for how much temperature change there will be over the course of the next 100 years, it'll be somewhere in between 2 degrees to 6 degrees Celsius warmer by the end of the century. That doesn't sound a lot. We experience temperature changes of 10, 20 degrees just by walking in and out of rooms. But if we look back on what's happened in the past, there's no period in human history where the temperature has changed by more than 2 degrees Celsius in the space of 100 years. So even the bottom end of the estimate, 2 degrees rise in temperature, is still a profound change, and it's a rate of change which is unprecedented as well.
These scientists are in the Arctic, carrying out research on ice thickness and movement. The different factors involved in affecting climate interact with each other in complex ways, and climate change scientists are particularly interested in processes known as positive feedback mechanisms. These are processes that are triggered by climate change, which themselves then produce further changes, amplifying the effects of climate change. One example is in the polar regions, where there are vast amounts of ice. Ice reflects a lot of the light that reaches it. This means the ice stays cool because the energy is not absorbed. But now, because of climate change, there are large areas of the polar regions, like here in the Arctic, where there is less ice than there used to be. Instead, there's just open ocean. The dark ocean surface absorbs a lot of the light energy from the sun, which warms up the ocean, and that in turn helps to make the planet warmer. That means it's less likely that ice will be formed, and so the oceans will absorb more energy and become even warmer. It's interrelationships like these that make climate change a complex and important field of study. And it makes it vital that scientific research is accurate and well thought out. To achieve this, scientists have a special way of working.
When scientists undertake science, we carry out research projects, and then we write those projects up as scientific papers, and we submit those papers to be reviewed by other scientists, and they have to pass what we call the peer review process.
The peer review process means that research can be published only if other scientists believe the research is good and valid. Dealing with climate change, or trying to avoid it, has the potential to affect the way we all live our lives. We need a good understanding of reliable scientific research to help us make well-informed decisions about what to do.
Climate change is increasingly being seen as a moral issue, and not only as one that's scientific. I mean, there's a lot of scientific research that's gone into climate change, but increasingly the decisions are political. It's not necessarily, how much doubling of CO2, carbon dioxide, is going to affect global temperatures. It's about how are we going to get people to cut down on their carbon emissions. And in this country, we might have the technologies to do that, but how exactly are we going to be able to do that in developing countries? Is it fair that we necessarily say to them they've got to cut down on their carbon emissions when they haven't had this path of development that we've had so far? Is it fair to them to say they can't have these things? It's all quite a complicated political issue.
Decisions on these issues will have huge economic and social consequences too, and that makes them controversial. Some people claim that climate change caused by humans isn't happening, or that the role that humans play in changing climate is tiny compared with the impact of natural forces.
Some people might want to disbelieve what scientists are saying. Some of these people might be scientists themselves, and their jobs might depend upon having a particular point of view, so they might not want to change it. Other people, it might not be as well thought through as that. It's very hard to change your behaviour, and I can understand people saying, oh, I'd much rather think that climate change isn't a problem, and then I don't actually have to give myself these choices.
Recognising how controversial and important climate change is, the United Nations set up an international organisation of scientists and governments called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC. In 2007, the panel reviewed thousands of scientific research papers that had already been peer-reviewed and approved by scientists. The panel concluded that most of the increase in global average temperatures since the mid-20th century is very likely due to the increase in greenhouse gases generated by humans. In other words, we are affecting the world's climate. The IPCC also said there is plenty we can do to avoid the worst effects of climate change and save much of what is precious. The question for us all now is, what are we prepared to do about it?